Welcome to another video of anatomy and physiology. This is the third video, or the last video of our three-part arterial system series, if you will. So let's go ahead and get started where we've started the other videos, which is at our aortic base, and then going off into our aortic arch. All right, so let's dive in. So I've removed my sternum and my clavicle so I can get a better look at the aortic arch. So I'm going to zoom in here, and you'll see that coming off of the aortic arch, which is the largest artery in the body, we have three branches. The first branch is feeds our right arm, and it is part of our right carotid artery. But we'll revisit the carotid artery in a few minutes. So this branch right here is called your brachiocephalic trunk. The prefix brachio is referring to the arm, and the cephal is referring to the head. So let's go ahead and follow the branch as it goes down the arm. We call this the subclavian. Okay, this is the subclavian because it goes underneath the clavicle there. As it goes from the subclavian, it turns into what's called the axillary artery. This axillary artery is the artery that is underneath the armpit portion of our arm. Okay? So now let's keep following it down, and it turns into our brachial, again referring to the arm. So this artery follows your humerus all the way down to the elbow, where the name changes, and as we zoom into that portion in the elbow, we're going to see that your brachial artery branches off into two separate arteries. Okay, so let me zoom out just a little bit so you can get a little bit more perspective of the arm. So here I have my thumb side, and if you remember, the artery that's on the thumb side, or the bone that's on the thumb side, that's your radius. So then this would be your radial artery right here. Okay, and then just medial to that, following your ulna, is your ulnar artery. Okay. All right, so we're making our way down, and now we are at our wrist or our hand. Okay. So with the hand, as you can see, the hand is pretty vascular. I'm only going to highlight a portion of the artery system here, the superficial arteries. And here we have our superficial palmar arch. So you can see it makes that little U arch shape. Okay? And then we have the arteries that feed our digits. This is the proper palmar digital artery. Now there's an artery that your proper palmar digital arteries and your palmar arch have in common. And this is the one, and it's called your common palmar digital artery. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the hand around. Okay, I'm flipping it around. Let me zoom out just a tad. Now I'm at the hand, the part of the hand that's called the backhand, or your dorsal hand. Okay? So each of these arteries is going to have that dorsal root in the name. So this is called your dorsal digital. Okay? So on the other side is your proper palmar digital. Now I'm unhighlighting them. And then the ones that are still highlighted are your dorsal digital. So then the artery that's just above those, okay, they're going in between your metacarpals. This is your dorsal metacarpal arteries. Okay, so those are the arteries that I want you to focus on for this particular part of the body. And now we're going to move our way back up to your brachiocephalic trunk. Okay, so back here at the brachiocephalic, we're going to now take a different route. So instead of going the subclavian route, we're going to go up. We're going to go up the carotid. This is the right common carotid artery. Okay. So this is a fairly superficial artery compared to, let's say, your vertebral artery, which we'll talk about in a second. So going up, following the carotid artery, we're going to notice that it branches off into two separate branches. Okay, we have your external carotid artery and the internal carotid. I want you to notice that on the other side, on your left carotid artery, okay, your left common carotid, you have the same thing. Okay, you have an external carotid and you have an internal. Okay, so let's go back to our right carotid. Let me center this. So let's first look at the external carotid artery, and let's take a look at what it provides oxygenated blood. So the first one is our facial artery. Okay, and then we're going to go up just a bit, and we're going to look at our temporal artery. Okay, so this is our superficial temporal artery. Okay, as you can see, it provides blood for your temporal region. And then let's take a look now also at your occipital artery. Okay, so it provides blood for the occipital portion of your skull. All right. So that, in a nutshell, is your external carotid artery. Now, of course, there are other arteries that come off of that, but we're just going to stick to that for now. Now let's take a closer look at your internal carotid. Okay, so here's your internal carotid artery, your cervical part, and as you can see here, it goes, its path is more internal in the skull. It goes inside of this canal here called the carotid canal into the brain to feed interior aspects of the actual brain as opposed to superficial muscles like your external carotid. Okay, so I want to remind you again that the other side of your skull also has an internal carotid. Okay, there we go. So as we go down and go back and look at our aortic arch, okay, so we just completed our brachiocephalic trunk, and now we're going to discuss our common carotid, which, just like our right carotid, has the same features. Okay, so with this one, I'd like to highlight a different feature that is actually attached to your subclavian artery. Okay, so here's your subclavian. This artery right here, this artery is called your vertebral artery. Okay, we're going to take a closer look at the cervical spine so you can see the path of this particular artery. So let me highlight some of your spine, and I'm also going to highlight the occipital portion of your head, of your skull, and we'll see why in just a second. Okay, so you see your vertebral artery, and you're seeing the path that it takes inside these, inside your vertebrae. Okay, so this is the transverse process. This is where that artery goes through. Let me remove one of these vertebrae so you can maybe get a better view as to where it goes. Okay, so you're seeing that it ends up going into the occipital portion of the brain. This is called, this large hole here is where your spine, okay, your peripheral nervous system begins. This is called the foramen magnum. Okay, and it just goes in through that particular foramen and up into the brain. Okay, all right. Well, let's take a look back now. Let's zero back out. So now we're at the third branch of the aortic arch. This is the subclavian branch. Okay, so just like with your right side, the subclavian, as it approaches your shoulder and your armpit region, it changes name to axillary. Okay, so this is your axillary artery, and as it follows your humerus, just like again on your right side, it changes the name to the brachial. So the names of these arteries are, they make a lot of sense. There is some intuitiveness to it, because when you think about the pathway of these different arteries, keep in mind the region of the body that they're going through. Keep in mind the bones that they're going through. Again, subclavian, subclavicle, Okay, vertebral artery going through the vertebrae. Okay, so keep in mind these regions, and I think that will help you in remembering the names, so you're not working so hard to memorize these. Um, so that does it for the artery system. Good luck in your studying.